here's Brody Brazil.
Welcome back to part 2 of a series that I've been joking about making, and then I actually decided to go ahead and make this series, MLB Parks That Never Got Built. And shout out to StadiumPage.com. They've done a lot of hard work over the years compiling some of these images and backstories. A lot of this is where I got started in my research and development of this series, StadiumPage.com. They go through the history not only of current stadiums, but ones like these that never got built. My joke is that there are so many sports renderings over the years of stadiums and venues and arenas that never got built. You could almost do an art museum exhibit with all of these great visuals, these great concepts that never actually came to fruition. They were beautiful, but now they're basically in the dumpster. Like these ideas for a giant stadium closer to downtown San Francisco, all of this is pre-PAC Bell. I say that as like PAC Bell Park, which opened at the turn of the century in San Francisco. And actually, if we really are looking at this here, that site is pretty close to where PAC Bell / AT&T / SBC / Oracle Park actually got built. This one is more right off the exit there that's the Bay Bridge. And this is obviously downtown San Francisco. But the actual ballpark is just a few blocks south of that current location. And then this is kind of a few blocks west of the current location. I think, it says there's 7th Street. So 3rd and King is where the ballpark is at. So it's over a few blocks that way. It's also over a few blocks that way. It's kind of actually like where I'm at if we were drawing things out here. I don't know about this stadium. Like this one would have been equally beautiful to where the Giants are now. It's not on the water, so it would have missed that. But this one would have been, I don't know, dark and dreary and right by the train tracks and the freeway. And how do you do that over there? It just, it doesn't never seem like a good idea. Although back then at this time, they were trying to get the Giants out of Candlestick Park. This was the late 80s, the early 90s. And what's crazy is the Giants were a good team. They went to the World Series in 1989, lost it to the A's, but they were a good bolstered team. Kevin Mitchell, Will Clark, and on and on and on. Matt Williams, Robbie Thompson. So several different concepts and locations, as you can see, were all explored here, including a dome, which we'll get to in a second. But they threw a bunch of ideas out there, mostly because the Giants needed to escape Candlestick Park, where they were first. They played there for several different decades. They and the 49ers shared Candlestick Park, but several times they could not get votes by politicians or in referendum votes for a new ballpark site, as well as funding to build this ballpark. Now, eventually they built PAC Bell Park, privately financed, and so they did it all on their own. And this was after the team was basically out the door to Tampa Bay. The team was sold, signed, sealed, and delivered. Well, everything but delivered to Tampa Bay. Baseball shut it down. The Giants stayed in San Francisco. They sold the team to new ownership, and they eventually built PAC Bell Park. But all of this was preceded by these ideas, and actually, all of these ideas, even the outdoor stadium idea, like right around China Basin, even that was preceded for an idea that the Giants would move into a dome stadium at the current site of Oracle Park. That dome stadium would have cost, I gotta laugh, $170 million back then. And this is what it was going to look like. This is, I think, a raw photo edit from the San Francisco Chronicle. You could see like where the publishing, the crop marks are back in the day. I mean, they took razor blades to photos and literally cropped and cut and paste photos for the newspaper. But the caption up here says, Mayor Dianne Feinstein made a strong recommendation for the construction of a downtown multi-purpose domed stadium. So wait a second. Does this mean a 49ers and Giants stadium that could cost as much as $170 million? An artist's conception is shown of the proposed stadium with a, retractable dome in the China Basin area of San Francisco. The stadium would seat approximately 70,000. Like, here's McCovey Cove, beautiful McCovey Cove. Here's the marina that's out there today. You can see the Bay Bridge off in the distance, Transamerica Pyramid, downtown skyline, which looks a lot different. Crazy to think, like, if this were reality instead of what sits here today. Number one, a stadium that seats 70,000. It's already bad enough getting 35, 40 something thousand in and out of this neighborhood. 70,000? And also a retractable roof. How often from the summer months of like May until October would you actually want that roof shut Like this ballpark in this location is beautiful all summer long. And does the weather ever really get that bad in San Francisco? Yeah, sure. Sometimes it's windy. Sometimes it's cold. Summers can sometimes be cold in the mornings or evenings in San Francisco. No doubt about it. That fog creeps in. But did you really need a dome stadium? What are we in, Seattle? We're not in the Midwest with heat and humidity. How pointless would that have been to build a 70,000-seat dome at the current site of Oracle Park? Glad that one did not happen. Okay, this is downtown Miami. The Marlins were trying to get out of, I should say. Was it Pro Player Stadium, the last name when they were there? I call it Joe Robbie Stadium. It's Hard Rock Stadium. It's where the Dolphins still play. It has gotten a huge facelift. Like Hard Rock Stadium now has the overhangs above the seats, and they've upgraded it a bunch for Super Bowls. But the Marlins were trying to get out of their first and only home, which they shared with the Dolphins, and do a baseball-only stadium in downtown Miami. And this one right here is about 2 miles away from where they built Marlins Park in Little Havana. Now, this is also the old Miami Arena, has since been torn down. So they wanted to do it, and I mean like right next door. How much room is in that little alleyway right there? Look, it's almost like they're building the ballpark surrounding this. I mean, did you have ideas to just tear that down? Maybe tear it down and then bring the ballpark all the way out here. Anyway, and also this. Like when you're selling a rendering, and I get it, this was more from the 2000s. I can't remember the exact year. We'll get to that in a second. Wouldn't you, like, aesthetically, and maybe I'll just do it for them, wouldn't you want to clean that up a little bit? Like show the dirty roof of the arena? If you're really trying to sell this rendering to the public and the population, and this is kind of what I mean about the evolution of renderings and how if you look at something from 2025 and what the Royals have projected or what the White Sox want to do with the 78, there have been some very impressive detailed renderings that come out largely with the help of AI, which didn't exist back then, but like do some Photoshop work. Cover that up. Like that is such an eyesore to something beautiful and bold right next door. By the way, were they doing parking lots out there in left field? This is also maybe not the best vantage point. I do like these light towers. I think those are very cool. This kind of like roly-poly type roof. I don't even know how better to describe it. Not a dome, but it covers the seats. I kind of like how it's tucked away, whatever this big wall is out there, although you're really covering up any type of view. I imagine that's a big hotel. It's probably what that is out there in right field. And also the crack here between the seats, that was kind of a modern new age idea, something to do in the 2000s. But a lot of things going well there, but a lot of missteps, I feel like, with those renderings. These plans were from early 2006 to get the Marlins their first ever baseball-only park. They were tired of sharing that old stadium with the Dolphins. This would have been 38,000 seats with a view of the Miami skyline that was desired. But again, desired, I didn't see it. There was a parking garage in left field and a hotel in right field. You got to chill with that. If you really want to see the skyline, you can't put much out there in center field. There were actually 3 different designs: a cantilevered roof, the band shell design. Maybe that's what I was looking at there. And then there was one with a soft Teflon roof, like a dome that kind of, and I think we're going to see this in a second, it folded up like an accordion, and then it kind of just stretched out almost like with pulleys and ropes. And this stadium is 2 miles from the eventual home of where the Marlins went. But they were thinking a little bit more downtown. They're obviously not exactly downtown now. So here's a different idea of what to do with the roof covering more of the stadium. And this is more of the indoor/outdoor design. And you know what? Baseball in Miami, I think they've done the right thing in putting a roof over the stadium just for weather and climate and how things go. I mean, do Marlins fans want to be outdoors in August like Rays fans are about to be here in 2025? Probably not. So this one seems like it made sense. And here's that accordion design where I think it just kind of slides out and covers up the rest of the stadium. So the idea of the stadium pretty much the same. I really do like those lighter teal seats. I really do like that for the Marlins. But they never actually built this. Instead, a handful of years later, they built Marlins Park. The Addison White Sox. What? As in Addison, Illinois, as in the suburb of Chicago. I don't know, is it 20, 30 miles west of Chicago? And they were going to build a huge dome out there in Chicago. Now, these renderings are kind of dated. These are actually, I think, from the late 80s, early 90s. We'll get to this in a second, but look at this dome right here. Look how long these fans are. It's kind of like a clamshell design where the dome would eventually, look at my drawing by the way, do this over the stadium. It would kind of like whoosh, enclose that way. We've really not seen a lot of domes do that. Miller Park, I think, eventually got built for the Milwaukee Brewers, which does that. But I don't know that any stadium had really been doing that yet. Maybe this was an initial concept that they used for Miller Park. Other than that, it's got a lot of the same look and feel, pretty standard and symmetrical of what they built to replace Comiskey Park on the south side of Chicago. Man, they love those circle ramps back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, really 60s through 90s. A lot of those circular external ramps to get fans up and down from the top decks. But again, this was the White Sox moving well away from urban Chicago. I mean, forget the south side. This would have been way, way, way west outside of Chicago. But Addison, Illinois, the suburb, almost got this baseball team, almost got this concept. 1986, there we go. So this was the idea to replace Comiskey Park, which they eventually got to in the early 90s. By the way, Comiskey Park, the replacement, Comiskey 2, if you want to call it, rate field, guaranteed rate field, whatever, U.S. Cellular Field, it was the last ballpark right before Camden Yards. And Camden Yards was the trendsetter, the brick and the steel and the dark green. And, it was the old school, it was the retro ballpark, new ballpark with the retro feel. But that's why White Sox fans kind of missed out big time. They were the last ones to build before the new trend that everybody followed. Right? And you think about Seattle and Denver and San Diego and, all these new ballparks that popped up. Cincinnati, they popped up with the old school feel of a brand new ballpark. And the replacement in Chicago, it missed out on that by just a couple years. But they were trying hard to replace Comiskey Park. This was going to be a 45,000-seat retractable dome, again in the suburbs. It was actually designed by HOK Sport, who did a lot of these designs. They also did Camden Yards. So you can see how they were, their mindset, where it was before they started going to these retro stadiums. There was a referendum project, just to show you how close this was of being built. A referendum vote for this project failed by only 43 votes. Could you imagine if those 43 votes had gone the other way? And the White Sox all these years would maybe still be playing in a dome from the 80s? No, quite honestly, they wouldn't. You know what? This stadium would have been torn down by now, and they'd be trying to get back to downtown or the south side. And that's what it would have looked like when it was closed. Look there's the logo for HOK. Isn't it amazing? Like, you can tell, and I apologize, this is just the quality of the photo, like from the 80s, from 1986. How they decided to depict this, they probably didn't have a rendering that was good enough. They wanted to make a model. Is that cardboard? Is that a paper model of this stadium? It looks nice and it's very detailed and somebody spent a lot of time on it, but that was something used to pitch the White Sox moving out to the suburbs and being in Addison. How about Northern Virginia? They were trying to entice the Expos when there was a lot of turmoil and uncertainty about whatever they would do. This stadium here for Richmond, Virginia, by the way, what's special about it? There's a lot of greenery. I do appreciate this, but if you're really trying to wow somebody or woo them, you did one of these square stadiums like they used to have in Arlington. The Rangers, not their current ballpark, but the prior version of Globe Life Park Field, whatever they're called. There's nothing special about this. You put the covering, the nice green covering. Everything is nice and green. There's a lot of lawn area out here. There's a whole second Little League park out there. Very cool. Looks like there's a grandstand with 2 levels of bleachers. This stadium, though, looks near identical to the Rangers' old one. They like copied and pasted the Rangers' design. This was an attempt by Arlington County, Virginia, to lure the Expos in 2004. There were 2 different sites and concepts produced within a year's span. Both of them were abandoned as soon as the Expos went to D.C. So in this case, nothing more that Northern Virginia could have done. They just didn't get the Expos. It was simple as that. But another one had them here closer to the water. Maybe that one's a little bit better. You can also see, though, and again, this square design, if this isn't Dallas, Texas, if this isn't that's where the design group is, but it just feels like they copied and pasted what the Rangers were doing. This one has a little bit more style and flavor. Look at that fence out there. What was that going to be? Green Monster Part 2? I do like this canopy design. I don't know. I mean, but this is so conceptual right there. Wait a second. You can't put a flag on top of the foul pole out there? Is that what we're doing? Some of these are such primitive and wild concepts. What can you really see from this rendering? And again, this was the 2000s. This is all we had really access to. It feels like not that long ago, but technically about 20 years ago, and that's the best they could do. All right, here's one that's going to make your eyes bleed. The New Jersey Yankees. This is out at the Meadowlands Sports Complex, and there were always rumors and speculation that, believe it or not, the Yankees would not play in the state of New York. They would cross over the river and play in New Jersey. I think these renderings are from the 80s. I don't think they're from the 90s. We'll get the date in just a second. But I mean, a fairly detailed concept, and I guess it looks like maybe they were trying to create Yankee Stadium with the shape of it there. I mean, the dimensions kind of look the same, but what a rip that would have been. There's not a ton of detail that still exists on this current concept to bring the Yankees out to New Jersey, and I think that's just the case of history telling a story here. If there's not much to go on, it probably wasn't heavily considered. Some of these things got approved and voted on, and maybe money was spent to really push the narrative, push the idea, but this one was just, wow, from the late 80s, that was actually a pretty good rendering. Design and colors and everything there in detail. I would have thought these were from the 90s. But anyway, renderings for that stadium at the Meadowlands Sports Complex, just a big blank canvas of land and some thoughts and ideas they had of doing this, and this just seems criminal to look at. Again, renderings have evolved so well because I'm looking at the stadium here. Where are the bleachers out there? There's not a ton of detail. There's not a luxury box seating. Look how big that second deck is. This almost looks like a Cleveland stadium that got torn down many years ago, or a county stadium in Milwaukee. There's nothing to it. There's no character to it. It's not even really enclosed. I'll tell you what this really looks like. Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, which obviously currently the Royals are trying to replace. I mean, imagine doing this, building this in the 90s. This ballpark, if built, would probably still be standing today. And of course, there'd be tons of opposition and people who want to bring the Yankees back to the Bronx. But wow, imagine and again, this is just a rendering. This wouldn't be exactly how it would look, but imagine this instead of what's all that area right there? It just seems like it's missing a few things. Thankfully, the Yankees didn't do a dome. I think you saw that in part one of my series here. And they didn't move to New Jersey. They just built new Yankee Stadium right next to the prior version of it. So that's part two of MLB parks that never got built. Some of these, like this one up here in Montreal, would have saved the Expos. This one here, I think that's the San Jose version of Cisco Field for the A's, would have saved the A's in Northern California. But some of them, that's the Fenway Park one. Thankfully, that never got built either. Some were good ideas that never got built. Some were bad ideas that never got built. But that's what this series is, bringing you back to the dozens and dozens of renderings that exist that never actually got put together. Let me know what you think about this series. Comments down below. I would love to see those, as well as a thumbs up. Helps me, the video, and the channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now. And make sure that I get to see you back here next time for part 3.